when I got the phone call. And it was definitely from the White House. And and they told me. I mean, there is no words to explain that moment. I thought of Ron and the Shadrach family. I thought of the Wilson family. But everything went back to Philip Gephart Shadrach and George Davenport Wilson.
Today, we are breaking news with this episode. The White House just announced, and I mean just announced, that 2 Civil War soldiers will be awarded the Medal of Honor next week. We have told you about these soldiers on several recent episodes. George Davenport Wilson and Philip Gephart Shadrach, also at times called Charles or Perry Shadrach, will be posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor in Washington, D.C. on July 3rd. Wilson and Shadrach were members of the legendary Andrews Raiders and were part of every step of the mission that is now known as the Great Locomotive Chase. The Raiders gained fame in 1862 when they stole a train called the General in what was then Big Shanty and now Kennesaw, Georgia. Their plan was to race north and destroy the rails between Atlanta and Chattanooga, Tennessee. But because of several reasons, the mission ultimately failed. 22 of those raiders were captured after the raid and jailed. 8 were executed, including Shadrach and Wilson. 8 others escaped from prison. The remaining 6 were later part of a prisoner exchange, and those 6 men were our country's first recipients of the Medal of Honor on March 25, 1863. Over the next 20 years, 19 of the 22 soldiers who were part of Andrews Raiders were awarded the Medal of Honor. Another soldier was offered the medal, but he was stopped by Confederates on his way to Georgia. He did not participate in the raid and declined the honor. But for reasons that are not completely understood, over the 162 years since the Great Locomotive Chase, Shadrach and Wilson were never honored. So now, after generations of family members have waited and worked, George Wilson and Perry Shadrach will finally be awarded the Medal of Honor. It's rare to go back in time.
A Civil War one? There's only been one other Civil War one that the Defense Department went back and looked at and awarded. Only one other one in the last since 1940.
Brad Quinlan is a historian who worked with a descendant of the Shadrach family, Ron Shadrach, to help research this case, put together nomination packets, and request the Army, the Pentagon, and the White House to once and for all correct this record and honor these 2 soldiers. Today, a conversation with historian and author Brad Quinlan about what it felt like when he got the call to learn that these 2 men would finally be honored. My name is Josh Rowe, and this is Tomorrowtown, Tennessee. We talked about this for the first time a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And at that point, you told me the story about how you met Ron Shadrach and how you got really involved in this. What does today feel like?
It's so many mixed emotions. I mean, the satisfaction of getting this finally accomplished and the joy for the families, the Wilson family, the Shadrach family. I'm really excited and can't wait to see them in person in Washington for the presentation. A few tears here and there as you reach that satisfaction and to know that we did it. We did it.
With these things, and when we experienced this with the Larry Taylor Medal of Honor ceremony, there are so many indications you get along the way that progress is being made, that this might happen, this is going to happen, and it doesn't happen. I mean, all those things. Can you just speak to that? Just kind of like what a process this is?
Oh, this is, it's one of the toughest things I've had to do in my research life. is to get these medals. Ron Shadrach started in 2008. He started in 2008, and he asked me to come on board April 12th of 2012 to help him, and then meeting with congressmen and senators, getting their questions, putting the package together, and then submitting paperwork and documents, and then finding out they've been lost. They don't know where they're at. Submitting and putting together those documents again, and then getting the moment where you're told it's there, Brad, it's close. And then to find out we're back to square one, starting over again. And it's just a range of emotions.
What was the moment like when you realized this really is happening?
Oh, when I got the phone call. And it was definitely from the White House. And and they told me. I mean, there is no words to explain that moment. I thought of Ron and the Shadrach family. I thought of the Wilson family. But everything went back to Philip Gephart Shadrach and George Davenport Wilson. And being here now for the first time since I heard that they're going to get the Medal of Honor, and being at their gravesite and finally saying, it's done, gentlemen, it's done.
When you look behind you and you've seen it enough, to know what it looks like, and you see the Medal of Honor on 4 of those headstones, and know after 161 years, I guess they were awarded in 1863, March 25th, 1863. Not all of these guys, but the first Andrews Raiders were awarded. But to see these 2 soldiers finally get that recognition that they've deserved, they earned 162 years ago. What does that mean to you to know that's about to happen to these headstones behind you?
And my association with the Medal of Honor, my dad and how his life was saved in World War II, and William Shockley saved his life. So the Medal of Honor is extremely important to me. I'm a descendant, a part of the legacy of the Medal of Honor, and to know that this work that is finished, and these gentlemen get to finally get that Medal of Honor headstone, and the family gets the Medal of Honor. And when I started this on April 12th, 2012, and Ron Shadrach came up and said, will you do this? Well, we were commemorating the 150th anniversary of the Great Locomotive Chase. And I'm sitting in the Strand Theater and I'm promoting my first book, and Ron walks up and asks me to do it. A few minutes later, standing behind Ron was the Jacob Parrott family. He was the first to be awarded the Medal of Honor. When Ron finished and he walked away, that family walked up to me and they handed me this commander's coin, Jacob Parrott's commander's coin. They said, Brad, get it done, finish it. And through the process, working with my Congressman, Rob Woodall, he asked me, well, how are the modern Medal of Honor recipients going to feel since these are 160 years old? So I actually had a chance at a event called Hearts for Heroes in Marietta, Georgia. Got an invite. There are 4 Medal of Honor recipients there. So I create a little brochure pamphlet asking them if it's okay if I go after these medals. Is it all right? Well, Herschel Woody Williams, Medal of Honor recipient from EWO, was the last surviving World War II Medal of Honor recipient. He looked at this after I told him the story. He asked for a pen and he signed it and he handed it back to me. He says, you got to make me one promise, Brad. Don't stop till you get it. We did it, Herschel. We did it. So this is here today, a picture of my father and a picture of William Shockley. We did it. Ron and I, and General Bell, General Raines, Carl Poston, Admiral Long, we worked together and we did it.
Tell me about what you actually did. You said 12 years ago you got
invited to be part of this journey. Tell me the things you guys did over that period of time.
Well, I first start with putting the paperwork together, going up to Washington, D.C., scouring, living in Swanee, Georgia. I had access to the Atlanta History Center archives and the Great Railroad Museum. It has the general of the Great Chase. So I went through their archives, put the packet together to find new things, you know. So I'm in the archives in Washington, D.C., doing research for a client, pulling court-martial records. Buried in the back of these court-martial records of book NN66, I find a 72-page document of 5 of the Great Locomotive Chase participants under testimony to Secretary of Defense Stanton talking about the chase and mentioning Shadrach and Wilson in it. We had additional proof. And then in 2018, the National Archives released 350,000 new documents of Confederate documents. Well, then I find a document that is entitled Train Robbers and Bridge Burners. It lists each of these men and what happened to each of them, what they did to each of them. New evidence. So I got that submitted, the packets again, improved the packets. Talked to 4 different congressmen and senators, submitting the packets, getting word we're there, then getting word we're not there, working through the process. Once you start the process, the Army tells you nothing. It is held in total silence until the decision's made. And then, at that moment, on Sunday evening, and the phone rings, and it's a DC number. Wow. This is it. And then when I was told, it's there, Brad. July 3rd, 4:30 in the afternoon at the White House, the families are going to get these medals. And the families have invited me to go. I get to be there. I was there when Larry Taylor got his, and that was overwhelming. This one is going to be overwhelming too. And it's been a whirlwind of emotions since then.
What have your conversations with Ron Shadrach been like the last couple of days?
And it's, he realizes now that all the work is completed. He's got it. And, there's a feeling in his voice now that it's complete. We've got it. Kind of still a little aggravation that it took this long. But when I was talking to the liaison with the White House and we were going through, we were talking about, how hard it is. And it's not supposed to be easy. And she said, how hard it is, Brad. And the "it" is capital letters. This is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be hard because of the extreme dignity of the Medal of Honor and those men and Mary Walker that have been awarded the Medal of Honor. And I've had the honor to meet 82 of them and to walk into their shadows and talk to these men, Desmond Dodge, Charles Coolidge, Larry Taylor, and then realize that you did it, that we did it. And I can't wait to see General Bell and General Raines and Carl tonight. And I can't wait on the 1st of July when I see the Shadrach and Wilson family at our hotel. I'm sure there'll be a few tears, so lots of hugs, and a drink or two in celebration and in tribute.
What does it mean to you that in a period of 10 months, 3 Medal of Honor recipients with ties to this area?
Yes.
All buried, probably within, 300-400 yards of each other, something
Yes.
like that. You combine the wait time, it's 215, 20 years, something like that, between 55 years for Larry Taylor, 162 years for these two gentlemen. all of that seems kind of improbable, but it happened.
Does. Yeah. And, getting Larry Taylor's Medal of Honor last year, and I 2.5 years ago, I got to sit in on the meeting as we were putting together a package again for Shadrach and Wilson and for Larry Taylor. And, okay, this is a long shot. 15 years ago, I was asked by Adam Pipes' family to go after the Medal of Honor for him. He was a Vietnam vet for Quezon. And it's been stonewalled, and it's dead from what I got back from the Defense Department. They're not going to do it. And then Larry Taylor, George Wilson and Philip Shadrach. Feels really good.
Yeah, this is not an easy thing to do.
No.
I mean, it doesn't happen. It happens. There's history of that, but it's not like this happens every week. It's rare to go back in time.
A Civil War one? There's only been one other Civil War one that the Defense Department went back and looked at and awarded. Only one other one in the last, since 1940. Only one. So since about 1940 to today, there's only been 3 Civil War Medal of Honors that have been reevaluated by the Defense Department awarded.
These 2 and one other?
One other.
So with that, what put these 2 over the line to get it done? Do you know that the factor? I mean, obviously you compare their stories to the people they were with, I understand, but for, as we talked about, for decades and decades, it never happened. So what do you think it was that made the difference this time?
General Rains and General B.B. Bell. These 2 men, they were not going to be denied. And once I met them and talked to them, and they took this on, there are not enough words for General Bell, General Rains, and Carl Poston. These guys were tenacious. We're not going to be denied. And they put us over the top.
A big thanks to the great Brad Quinlan for this conversation on Morrowtown, Tennessee. This podcast is a production of News Channel 9, Fox Chattanooga, and Sinclair Broadcast Group Chattanooga. I hope you join me again real soon.